Okie dokie. Hello, my name is Charlie. I am the employer learning lead, or something of that variation is my title here at Pathfinders. Forgive me, I've just had a new job title changed and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But it's essentially the PA employer work is what I do. Today's topic is who pays when my PA comes out and about with me. I have slightly altered the title. If you would like to be involved in some of the giggles that we get up to, us PA employers, feel free to email me and I will send you the sign up link to join our WhatsApp group and our Facebook group, so you are better in the loop.
It wasn't just me that thought
that. Quick question, favour, please can everyone pop their mics on mute just for the recording. Thank you so much. Righty, so I'm going to add in bits about how I do things and also cover other things because I'm aware we're all different. The caveat I want to say is that we are all different and we are all different employers, and what we do and don't offer our PAs is different. Now, there isn't, in terms of paying for PAs meals and things, there isn't a set rule, like a firm set rule, law, whatever you want to call it. However, if you stipulate things like feeding them in their contract and it's been signed, then that you do need to uphold that unless you both agree to remove it from the contract. But in terms of in general, there is no official one way or the other on whether you do or don't have to feed your PAs when you're out. Now, of course, as we all know, in the current climate, care is being reviewed and rules and things may change in time. Employment laws may change. So at the current time of filming this, there is no set rule that we all have to abide by. We as employers and our funding bodies can have their own individual wants and things. One thing I will say is whatever you decide with your PA, pop it in your employee handbook and have them email you either if they've got any questions and that they understand and that they agree to go ahead with that. That's really, really important to do that. I would stay away from adding these sorts of things in the contract just because they are a lot harder to change. An employee handbook you can change at any time. So in terms of recording the agreement between you and your PAs, I would stick with your employee handbook. That's just my personal opinion. Of course, you can do it differently. But one thing I would really stress is to at least have the conversation via email so you've got a paper trail. That's really, really important. You need some sort of proof that you've chinwagged, that you've had the conversation, and that's how you and them are going to handle things. Right, that's my little boring bit at the beginning done. So the question is, who pays when your PA either goes out with you to an event, goes out to eat with you, eats while you're out? Who pays? And the ultimate thing is, it depends on your agreement with your PA. Now, I let my PAs know if we're going out. So I have a peg, and I do think that sort of is important to that, only because usually if you eat and you're out and about for the day, you would need to stop and eat, therefore your PA would eat, if you know what I mean. However, because I have a peg, I don't stop to eat, but I feed, but that's besides the point. I don't stop to eat in the traditional way. So since I've had a peg, the way we do things in terms of meals between me and my PAs has changed slightly. Not a lot, just slightly. Now, for me personally, I let my PAs know in advance if we're going to be out and it's going to be out over a meal, like, out over lunchtime or dinner time or something like that. They then have a choice whether they want to bring their own food and eat that with everyone or at a separate time, or if they do want to eat out, then they pay for it. That is the agreement between me and my PAs. I agree with that with them when each PA starts. We agree it, we discuss it. It's in their employee handbook, and that's the agreement we have. Now, in terms of at home, sometimes so the irony in my family is I'm the cook. Yes, the girl with the peg is the cook. Okay, there's the irony. I live with my mum, so I do all of her meals because she's disabled too. And if I'm doing something like a roast dinner or, you know, like a pasta-based meal where, let's face it, we all overcook pasta, like in terms of the amount we cook, let's be honest. So if there's loads of food going and money isn't tight, so as in mum doesn't want to eat that meal for a few days, then I might invite the PAs to eat with us. Christmas Day, they're always invited to eat Christmas dinner with us. So there are times when I do offer my PAs food. If I'm taking them out for their birthday or an anniversary or something special, and I have invited them out, I will explicitly say whether or not I'm buying their meal. And if I invite them out special for their birthday or something, I would usually pay for it, only because I want to do that for them as like their birthday gift. Now, again, every employee is different and you don't have to do that. You do not have to do that. But they're the times when I would offer my PAs food, either when I'm cooking at home, sometimes, not every day, just sometimes. And if I've invited them out versus they're out with me just because I'm doing something and their job is to take care of me, you know? So that's how I do it in terms of the day to day. For example, I went to Brighton Pride and I bought me and my PA lemonade. And I wanted to do that, so I chose to do that. And then in return, she later bought me my Mr. Whippy ice cream. And secretly, no one tell my dietitian, folks, please. And she chose to do that. Now, me and my PAs do that sometimes as well. If one of us shows one a kind favour, then the other one will. But again, there's no obligation with those sorts of kind gestures. They are only if you want to, and we both explicitly talk about it before, so there's no awkward in the moment, like, oh no, what do we do kind of things. So I would really, really stress that if you do have a slightly changeable thing like I do, like I wouldn't pay for them out, but if I wanted to treat them out would be different, or things like that, just have those conversations with your PA and get them to agree it and that they're happy with it in writing via email. And that just sort of covers you. I will later on in the talk about what I do on holidays, because that's very different to what I do in my normal day-to-day when I'm out and about with my PAs. I think the most important thing to remember, because some of us can, it's very easy to get friendly with your PAs. And sometimes when you get friendly, or if, for example, you've hired a friend to be your PA, the lines could be a bit more blurred then. And so you then potentially could be in a situation where, is it my friend that I'm going out with, or is it my PA's working? So that's something that you really want to think about as well. And I recommend that you talk to your PAs and say, look, we need to both agree when this is a social friendship thing versus you're at work, you're taking me out, and I'm your employer. Also, the important thing to know is, as an employer, we aren't actually, unless it's been explicitly agreed, we aren't usually obliged to pay all of their expenses. Now, if this is something you do offer, if this is something you've put in your contract or you've put in your employee handbook and you do offer, then that would be different. But let's just say you don't. It's really important that you know that, because I think sometimes employers can think, oh my gosh, I have to pay for everything all of the time. But like I say, unless that's an agreement you have with your PA to do that, you aren't obliged. And discussing it, ultimately this whole topic is about communication. Communicate. And remember, as people, we can change. For example, say you used to buy the meals out, but now you're skinned because, let's face it, the benefit system's a train wreck, or you've lost your job, or your job's hours have been reduced, or for whatever reason your income's different and now you can't afford it. That's okay too. Have that conversation with your PAs, come to an agreement, have that via email in writing, ideally put it in your employee handbook, and move forward. Now, again, if you've stipulated these kind of things in your contract, please go to your employer's liability insurance because they will need to talk you through, because it's a much more complicated process because of changing contract you both have to agree to, whereas a change in the employee handbook, as far as I'm aware, you can change that, and you can change that whenever you want to. But please do go through your employer's liability insurance whenever you're changing any type of policy with your PAs, just to make sure. Employment laws and regulations change all the time, and there could be ones that I don't know about or you don't know about that have changed, you know. Again, as I've mentioned before, I recommend you maybe every 6 to 12 months email your employer's liability insurance and just ask them, explain to them your care package, and just say, is there any employment laws or rules and regulations that have changed that might impact me and my team? I find that really useful, because I've been caught out before that certain rules changed. I didn't know it, and I was technically illegally, I was breaking the employment law. So I really do stress that anything involving your PAs when it comes to policies, run it past your employee liability insurance, even if it is just a change to your employee handbook, because it's just really important. They're the ones that do know all of the most up-to-date rules and regs. So, and we pay them, you know, so that's what they're there for. They're to support us. So ultimately, who pays when you take your PA, or should I say, who pays when you are out eating lunch or dinner and your PA is with you? The ultimate thing is, it depends, and it changes. If you have that agreement with your PA that you pay their meal, one thing I would say is, don't have the blanket statement of I'll cover your meal, because there's a very big difference in you buying them a McDonald's or them turning around going, I want a steak. I really recommend you stipulate how much you're willing to pay, or say, I'll pay this much, you can top it up. I'll cover your basic, your basic dinner meal. And I would put an amount on that, because obviously we'd like to think that most PAs wouldn't take wouldn't take advantage of that. But it is a blurry thing when you just make the blanket statement, I will cover your meals when we're out. It's really important that you're very detailed in these policies, that you're really, really clear with your PA exactly. For example, I used to have the funding, my funding body used to give me in my care budget money to cover PAs, accommodation on holiday, and their food expenses. Well, they don't anymore. And that's another thing you want to do, is talk to your funding body, because they may allow you in your budget money for those things, and they may not. And it's really, really important. So when I did used to pay, this is going back many, many years now, I had a limit. My PAs had £20 that I would pay on a meal, and if they wanted more than that, then they had to top it up. Now, I'm not telling you at all what amount to have, but I do think it's important, because you don't want to be in a situation where you get a PA that's confused or is taking advantage, and they order a like stupidly expensive meal, and you're like, oh gosh, I can't afford that. And once it's ordered, you've got to pay the bill, you know. So it's really, really important to not make a blanket statement, to really think about it, be very detailed with it, and to sit down with your PAs. It's also really important to know that if your budget, for example, me, when my budget no longer covered it, I had to have the meeting with the girls and we talked it through. If your finances, if you're funding these meals and things like that out of your own money, again, you have a change for some reason, talk to them. As long as you haven't put it in the contract, it is easier, well, hopefully, as long as your PAs are amicable and are okay with it, it's okay to change your mind and for things to change. Now, sometimes a PA might not always agree with it, but ultimately it is your choice, unless, like I say, you've popped it in the contract and then things get a little bit more hazy. But even whether your PA agrees or doesn't agree with a change in how you do things, or just the way you do things, just go to your employer's liability insurance. They will talk you through everything. They will explain everything. It's very easy for mistakes to happen. I know I've had that. At the start of being an employer, I had a PA that thought she had worked for a very famous person. And because they were famous and essentially rich, they covered all of her costs. So if she accompanied that person out, they paid for all their costs. So when I was at the start of being an employer, when I was 18, didn't think to say, no, I don't cover that. At this point, I didn't have it in my budget. And she expected it. So she ordered her meal and then turned around and walked off. I was like, where are you going? You need to pay your share of the bill. And she went, nah, you do it. Well, that's how it works at my other job. You pay for it. That's the law. And I was like, actually, no, it's not. No. So you don't want to be in that situation where you're in front of each other. You're either at an event and tickets need to be paid for, or you're at a meal, and you just don't want to be in that sticky wicket and awkward situation. Now, I did for a couple of years, went back when at the start of being an employee, when I was about 19 to 21, they had it in my budget that I could cover basic food and PA accommodation on holiday. But that soon got taken away as my care needs got higher, my budget got more expensive. They then cut away the things that weren't quote unquote a necessity. That's their words, not mine. So that's something you want to do as well. Touch base with your funding body and see if they will cover it. Some employers, they do. Some funding bodies will, some won't. Sometimes you can negotiate, and you can appeal their decision, of course, to try and cover these things. But like I say, ultimately, it is your choice, and then it is your choice, and you want to make sure that you are explaining that to your PAs and that everyone agrees. And remember, I will keep saying this till I'm blue in the face, get them to agree everything via email in writing, because what you don't want is you and your PA make an agreement in person. You then go out, they then turn around and go, you never said that, I didn't agree to that. And then they make you pay their meal. You need to have a paper trail. It's very, very important. I'm not saying, please forgive me, I'm not saying all PAs are going to take advantage or be cheeky. I don't mean that at all. But let's be honest, there will be occasions where you do get the odd PA that is cheeky, that does take advantage. And it's really, really important that you can turn around and go, actually, we discussed this, you agreed it via email, here it is. And then they go, oh, okay. And it just supports you and helps you in the day-to-day employing PAs. The other question another question that I get is, say, for example, you are going out for the day and you and your friends want to go to the pub for food, but your PA doesn't want to go to the pub for food. They want Nando's, or they brought their own food and they're not allowed to eat that in the restaurant, or they want to eat that somewhere else. It is important that you do give your PAs the opportunity to eat. And I don't mean that to come off patronizing. What I mean is, it is important to make sure that they can eat where they want and need to eat, especially if they've got dietary restrictions or allergies and things. So it is important to negotiate that with your PA. I would recommend, when you're arranging to go out with friends or family, that you decide on the place you're going to eat beforehand, run it past your PA. They can then say, actually, I don't want that. Actually, I'm allergic to that. You can say, okay, right, we'll go here and eat with the friends and family. And then while I'm eating there, you can go off and eat where you want to. Or once we're done there, we can then go to the place where you want to eat, and then you can eat your food. Or, for example, if they brought a packed lunch, you can say, excuse the notifications, folks, I do apologise. Some restaurants will let you get away with them sitting next to you and eating it. Some restaurants will be like, no, you can't eat food from outside. So again, just take that time to let them go sit somewhere and eat. For example, I went to Brighton Pride recently, and my PA needed to have dinner. So we negotiated what we were doing at Pride, and then we agreed a time that she wanted to have dinner. And my PAs can't go off and leave me. If your PAs can, then it might be okay while you're eating that they go off and eat, or you're with chatting with your friends and they go off and eat. But if you're like me and your PAs can't leave you, then I just went with her. So I went to the chip shop with her, and then she sat. It was a nice day, so she sat on the beach and ate it, and I sat with her, and that was her time to sit down and rest, eat what she wanted to, but also I was safe because I wasn't on my own. So there are, like I say, there are ways you can negotiate things, and that really worked. I will also say that there was a fish and chip shop that was probably easier for me for her to have ate at, but it didn't sell the thing that she likes to eat. So I was more than happy to go to the specific one she wanted to get the food that she liked to eat. So it is important to remember that although we're not obliged to pay for meals and things, you still want to make sure that you're considerate. And I know sometimes it's hard, isn't it? Like you're out with your mates or your family and you get chatting, and then you end up deviating from the plan, and then the day gets a bit longer, or you get stuck in traffic, or whatever your activity you've gone to do ends up taking longer, or whatever the case may be. It is really, really easy to get sidetracked. No one's perfect. Sometimes we are going to forget, oh crikey, my PA hasn't sat down yet, or my PA hasn't ate yet. So it's easy, and it's totally understandable. And I have gotten sidetracked when plans have changed last minute, and my PA went, "Oh, Charlie, I really need to eat now," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Of course. So or if you suffer with cognitive fatigue, or any reason that you might just get sidetracked, that's okay too. Just say to your PAs from the get-go, look, I might get sidetracked, or for example, because I have a peg, I don't get hungry like everyone else does. So for example, you might, if you eat, get hungry and think, oh, we all need to go for lunch. But if you don't eat, you might not think that way anymore. And so my girls and my PAs know that if I do get sidetracked, or I just forget, or I don't realize what the time is, or whatever the case may be, they know they can say to me, Charlie, I need to have a sit down. Charlie, I need to eat. Can we go and eat? So, have those conversations, make those agreements, and do also caveat your PAs and say, look, if there is times when I've forgotten, or things have got to, things have gone sideways with our plans for the day, then just let me know. For example, we got stuck in traffic on the way back from Brighton, and it ended up taking us 3 hours. And I said to my PA, look, do you want to stop at a service station and eat? Do you want to take a break from driving and have a rest? If your PA smokes and you're okay with them smoking on shift, you might want to offer them to have a smoke at some point, in your activities, depending on what your rules and regs are. And that's a topic we can talk about another day in terms of smoking breaks, and all of the things that entails. But it's really, really important just to say to PA, look, just say to me, Charlie, oi, let's sit down now. Let's sit down, please. The other thing I want to say is the way you do your break system with your PA, there are different types of break systems you can use. Depending on your package and your care needs, there are different ways you can do a break system for your PAs, and that's with them out and about, or at home. Now, I can send you the link to the DirectGov website. We can talk about different types of rest breaks and how they apply in a separate video. If you would like that, just email me, charlie@pathfindersalliance.org.uk, Charlie, Ley, and I can certainly put that topic on the list for a future video. Sorry, I've talked too much. I'm going to shush now. Right, my last thing I'm going to cover is holidays. Now, the way I do holidays is I do a live-in setup. My funding body stipulate that when you do a live-in setup, they need to have a 2-hour break in every 24 hours, and I cover their basic food and drink. Now, again, your funding body might not care and have a rule, in which case you can make the choice for yourself. However, do touch base with them just in case they do. There is no, technically in a living setup, there is no hard rule on that. So I just go with my funding body. To be honest, those rules started when I had a living agency, and my funders just said, just stick with doing that, even now I have PAs. So that's why I do that. And what I do with that is I personally choose to go on holiday somewhere where we do self-catering. So it's a caravan, cabin, an apartment or whatever. And I do a food shop, and then the girls do a packed lunch and a packed lunch dinner. Or we'll arrange to go back to the accommodation for them to have dinner and then go back out, things like that. So I'll cover their basic. If we go out, if they eat out, I will cover a basic like first course and drink. And then if they want, like a starter, a dessert, or 2 starters, or if they want to increase their food, or say, for example, I've bought food for a packed lunch, but they decided, actually, no, I want to eat out, then they cover those costs. So if they want to increase what I'm paying, they can. Or if they don't want to eat what I've provided, then they pay for what they do want. I won't cover in terms of alcohol because, and I don't just mean that on holiday, but I mean in general, that again could be another topic if you want to talk about PAs, do they drink, is it all right, that kind of thing. But that's the way I like to do it. I have a portable hoist, so I take away 2 PAs with me. So when one has a 2-hour break, the other one is on shift, and then vice versa. So I'm not ever left alone, because I'm not allowed to be alone, particularly if I'm in a normal bed and things like that. So that's how I do holidays. Now, again, you could be different. You could pay for all in, all catered, and then just the PA eats. Or again, you and your PA can discuss if you're going to give them a food budget, like a certain amount you'll cover, or if you want them to cover their food. Now, of course, it depends very much. Like I say, there's no set rule with living, and I'm not saying you have to be living on holiday either. That's just how I do it. I do know other friends and other employers that have gone with the all catering. That's probably the wrong terminology, but you know what I mean. And they just decided, well, it's all part of the holiday cost, so my PA can just eat. Some of them have said, right, to their PAs, you've got a £20-30 budget for the day. You have to top up the rest. And then some PAs and employers agree that they cover the cost. Obviously, it is a bit different when you take them away, and it is something that you do really want to talk about, because going away on holiday is a bit different to going out and about for the day. So I don't know of a lot of employers that their PAs cover all their food costs, but some do. I'm not saying they don't at all. And again, your choice. You and your PA have that conversation, get it confirmed in email, pop it in your employee handbook, and cover that. So I'm now going to shush and stop the recording. If anyone watching the recording back have any questions, drop me an email. My email will be in the description, and we can chat about it more. I'd love to hear what other people do and how you manage things.